Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another Daily Drop here on TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm THL publisher Andrew Jones. Then the topic today is Carolina basketball. There's so much to talk about. It might be the middle of June, almost the middle of June, but there's plenty of Carolina basketball to talk about, and we will do that on a regular basis here on the Daily Drops, as we have been all along. We did last summer. It was amazing how many things we could hit on and not be repetitious. The topic here, the specific topic with Carolina basketball, is the roster. The roster set, 11 scholarship players. I like the idea of 11 scholarship players. I think that's going to be more a trend moving forward in college basketball. Men's college basketball teams can have 13 players on scholarship, and a lot of schools will do that. But when you're in North Carolina, you're going to have a lot of changeover. The big programs are going to have a lot of changeover if they go with 13 scholarship guys, because the mindset of the player these days isn't the same that it was even 6-7 years ago, where they come in, they wait their turn, they work, they improve, and they get more and more playing time. There will be guys that do that. No doubt about it. There will be some really good program guys that become studs when they get when they get older in college, but it's not going to be the norm. A lot of dudes are going to leave. We've already seen that with UNC. We've seen it with so many programs. So I think Hubert's really comfortable with 11 scholarship players. Now, I don't think the number 11 was an absolute with this team. I don't think he went into the portal period of the year saying, hey, we're only going to take 2 more and that's that. I think it just worked out that way. It worked out that way in part by design, but also because of the kinds of players that they got, and also what they see, what he has seen from his own roster. And that's where the debate comes in. A lot of people still annoyed, bothered, upset, bewildered, ticked off that he didn't go out and get a big 7-footer. A lot of people wanted Onyenso from Kentucky. He's 7-footer, rim protector, gets rebounds, not much of a scoring threat. A lot of people wanted the kid from Rutgers that went down to Alabama. People wanted to go get another big, when in reality, they have big guys. They have guys that could play down low, and the program believes a lot in Jalen Washington, certainly more than most fans do. The program believes that Zayden High could take a step forward and give them a little bit of a presence down low in a reserve role. They saw late how Jalen Withers played, and he played a little bit of 5 in the NCAA tournament, and he could defend the 5. He's a pretty strong guy. In fact, we have a Jalen Withers story coming up, and one of the photos is of him defending the 5. And the thing about Van Allen Lubin, which I need to make very clear because there's still a big misconception about the kind of player he is. I read and hear way too many Harrison Ingram comparisons. There are similarities in the lane with some of the moves he has in the lane, a little bit more deliberate in the lane like Harrison was. Harrison was a, jab to keep the pivot foot, jab a couple times, get a dude on the hip, try to score that way. Lubin's got some of that in his game. I think he's a better scorer in the lane. He's more efficient in the lane. He's got more variety, a lot more ways to score in the lane than Harrison. But Harrison was a better, more comfortable perimeter player. It's also a difference in nearly 3 inches in height. Different players. They have some similarities. And when they walk into a room or from afar, you might say, hey, that guy kind of looks like him. But they're different players. And then the staff, it eventually felt really good about what they had. A lot of that's because of what's there. So when they got to the point where Lubin made the visit, and then you had all the Onyenso stuff, and people were talking about Coleman Hawkins, who's a totally different player than those guys, it was clear they were willing to take one of those guys. We were telling everybody all along, they're just going to take one. They're just going to take one. Lots of stuff out there. Well, they're going to take both. Probably take both. David Sisk nailed it from day one. They were going to take one. And I think of those 3, Lubin's the best fit because he could do the most things. He's a better basketball player for the way Carolina will play. He's a need. He filled a bit of a void. Onyenso would have filled a void, but he wouldn't have added a whole lot to it. Coleman Hawkins wouldn't have filled a void. They have those kind of guys. So the roster is set. They'll have some walk-ons and everything else. And, crazy stuff happens. Remember they got Dawson Garcia real late in the process a few years ago. We don't anticipate anything like that happening. They're look at their roster. It's there. It's set. This is who they are. And I think the player that people need to back off with saying he can't do this, he can't do that, is Jalen Washington. Let's wait and see. One of the things I've learned in doing this for 28 years professionally is that nothing is ever as you think it is, exactly as you think it is when you project ahead. Never. There's always something that's different about a team, and sometimes wildly different than anybody saw coming. I'm not saying that Jalen Washington is going to be a superstar, but there are so many things to like about his game. So many things to like about his game. And there are a few things that must improve. But he did improve those things. When you look at Zayden High, there are some aspects to his game that are all about energy, all about physicality. He's just got to be a little bit more dialed down in certain respects on the court and not commit so many fouls. Jalen Withers has already gone through the adjusting period, getting used to coming off the bench and being a role player. He admitted multiple times during the year that was tough. I talked to him about it later on in the year when he was playing well in the NCAA tournament. I talked about it with him in the locker room in Charlotte, and you could tell that there was a lot of gratitude for having gone through what he went through and coming out of it the way he was as the season was ending, playing his best basketball at North Carolina, and in snippets playing the best basketball of his life. And he was doing it with a purpose, playing a lot of minutes on terrible Louisville teams, going from that to being a role player on a really good North Carolina team. That was a huge adjustment, and he made that adjustment. So now that's behind him. He will launch into this season without those things kind of slowing him down a little bit. He's not going to be moving forward with ankle weights on. They're gone. And he's going to have an opportunity to do some stuff down low. Now, Van Allen Lubin is going to go from playing on a bad team to adjusting to playing on a really good team. He's going to have more expected of him than Jalen Washington did. But I think the game that he showed at Vanderbilt was a better all-around, more refined, more efficient game than what Jalen Withers showed at Louisville, but they're also different players. And that's why I like this roster, because no two parts are alike. From Elliot Cadeau to R.J. Davis to Ian Jackson to Seth Trimble. Think about that foursome in the backcourt. They're all very different players. When you look at the wing down, since Cade Tyson is a 6'7" kid who will play some four. You've got Tyson, you've got Withers, you've got Jay Wash, you've got Lubin, you've got High, you've got Drake Powell, and big guy, of course, you got James Brown. These are all different players. So if no two fingerprints are alike, and they're all unique, there are 11 fingerprints on this team as basketball players. They're all very different. So I think the staff did a real nice job of finding parts that will fit in, fill a void, and mesh well with the others. So they didn't get the giant Goliath in the paint. But I got news for you guys. If you go back to the 1982 National Championship for North Carolina, 82, 93, 05, 09, and 17, one of those teams started a 7-footer. One. And that was 93 with Eric Montross. Kevin Salvador was also a 7-footer, played a lot on that team as well. Sam Perkins was 6'9", super long wingspan. Sean 6'8", not much hops, not a lot, super long, a pretty long wingspan, but not great hops. Tyler Hansbrough, 6'9". Deion Thompson was 6'8". Danny Green, 6'7", 6'6". Wayne Ellington, 6'4". Ty Lawson, maybe 6 feet. I stood next to Ty, almost eye to eye. 2017, Kennedy Meeks, 6'9", not great hops, although he did have a big block shot. Isaiah Hicks, 6'8", didn't stretch the floor, wasn't always a post guy, kind of a mid-range guy, had a nice little double pump late against Gonzaga. So you get my point. This team meshes well. That's the most important thing. Got to mesh well first, or at least they should mesh well, I should say. And then they have 11 unique parts. And 10 of them might be in the rotation. I think James Brown's a little bit of a project. That's fine. He has time to develop. Zayden High should be a little bit better, so he'd be a 10th guy. It's not bad if you're going to a 10th guy and it's him. A lot of teams college basketball would love that. So, roster complete. I think it's very interesting right now to sort of think ahead, and we'll talk about a lot of these things more and individual players as we go through the summer. In fact, coming up later this week, going to really zero in on Jalen Washington. I had some very interesting conversations with him late in the season, and just by those conversations and him saying more, you could see more of his game kind of coming out. And I think the program obviously sees that, and they expect him to really take off next season. There's no doubt about it. So that drop is coming up later this week. We also do a ton of football drops, and we're going to get some recruiting stuff. David and I were going to do a couple of pods the other night, but he's been swamped with a bunch of things. He's got a basketball camp he's running right now, so we're going to push that back a little bit. But the recruiting pods for basketball are coming. Recruiting pods for football are coming. Very busy football recruiting month. And by the way, for all of you who say, man, we don't like this paywall crap at THI, give us a free sample. Give us 30 days for free. We just ran a promo where you could have gotten THI for free until the start of football practice. So if you missed it, we're not going to have another promo for a long time. That one kind of snuck up. Rivals said, hey, let's do these things. I said, okay, let's try it out. It's based sort of around the heat of football recruiting. Did pretty well with it. Still, you can get on board and be a Tar Heel expert for just $8.33 a month. That's all it costs. It's not even a drive-through. Somebody on Twitter posted on Monday, hey, if you ate lunch out today, that costs more than a month of THI. Did. A lot more. So hop on board, become an expert. Right now is a great time. David has a lot of basketball recruiting stuff rolling in. So you don't want to miss it. And you can only access it if you are on our premium boards. Anyway, I'm AJ, and I appreciate you stopping by.